meet. Well, this is a thrill for me. Joining us here at pucksports.com, here on YouTube if you're watching, if you're listening, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. 39 years this guy has been in your homes doing television, and he's going to retire for some reason. We got to find out what he's going to do. Eric Johnson from KOMO-TV is with us.
I got to find out what I'm going to do. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. I'm just sure of one thing. It was just time. It was just time to. I still think I have a couple tricks left up my sleeve, and I want to see it through and see what I can do. And I've loved this business. Loved it. I leave with no bitterness, no anger, on my own terms. But I got some other stuff I want to try.
Okay, are we just gonna? I mean, is that like 5 days a week at the Chili or what?
Yes.
Or, maybe
3, a solid 3. A solid 3 with a fourth being an option.
Yeah.
How about that?
When 30, can you when you hear that and you hear me or anyone say 39 years in television, like does that kind of does that blow you away?
Yeah, because I don't even really think of it in those terms. I think of it in like little eras of my career. Like I had my starting out in Boise days, my working in my hometown of Spokane in front of my parents' days, the Portland days where I met my wife and I felt like I kind of came into my own. And then in Seattle, I separated into the Little Heroes days,
Best.
The Heroes days, the Seattle is dying days, and I kind of parse it out that way,
What when did you want to get into it? Was it early on? Did you know at an early age, hey, I want to be on television?
I'm going to tell you a story, and this is a true story. I believe it was November 26th, 1970. I was 9 years old, and I watched a Rams-Vikings game on Monday Night Football. And Howard Cosell, I think it was the first season of Monday Nights, Howard Cosell was doing that thing he did, and my dad didn't like him, but my dad's buddy liked him, and I just felt, I don't know, man. I can pinpoint the day. I've gone back and looked at that game on YouTube. That's when I decided. And so after that, I started writing stories I wrote my own little football magazine. I would do play-by-play of like a dice baseball game on a tape recorder, the school newspaper, and took debate, anything to get in front of people, anything to be communicating. So I go way back with this, and that's why, what's happened in my 39-year career is a dream. It's a dream fulfilled, man. I'm so proud and so happy because when people say chase your dream or do what you love, I'm one of those lucky guys that got to do that.
It's funny, just kind of like a full circle moment, because I remember exactly the day I wanted to get into this business, just media, just talking about sports, was I was 13 years old, and we were at Meeker Junior High. We had a project we had to do for our social studies class, and it was, you can go job shadow anyone that you would like. And I was like, well, all I've ever wanted to do was talk sports. And my guy, like, I had a lot of, as we all did, like heroes growing up in sports. And most of them were players.
Right.
But I loved, and I'm still to this day, one of the weirdest, like addicted to like local television. And when I was a kid, I would go and bounce around all of the different sports broadcasts, because that's
the only time you could find any sports, right?
Well, that's right. Cause there's no ESPN, there's no Sports Center. I mean, I would stay up late on Sunday night to watch George Michael, the Sports Machine. If people remember George Michael, the Sports Machine.
It was fabulous.
It was great. But my hero, like some of my idols and heroes growing up were, it's Tony Ventrell on King 5, Wayne Cody on 7, Rod Simons on Channel 11, and then the biggest one was Bruce King on Channel 4. And so on KOMO, and so I was like, I would watch them every night. And that was when they had like 6 minutes, it felt like, to do sports. It was like, it was so long. And so
Bruce, the stylist, he would say, now the play of the night.
He was such a, and that's where I think, and it dawned back on me now that I think about it, where I learned to try to entertain more than anything, that it was a theater performance, so to speak,
Mm.
because he treated it like that. But so I did a job shadow with Bruce
Oh,
in
you
Como,
did.
and I got there, and I had never met him, and I to me he was this larger than life figure, and then I met him, and I'm like as tall as you, and it was one of those things. It was great, but then I got to kind of follow him around, and that
He was
was,
a sweetie.
oh, he was the best, and that was the
He was
heyday
a
of,
gentleman, right?
yeah. And that was
An
the heyday of
absolute
you
gentleman.
guys, right? That was Dan and Kathy
Yeah.
and Steve and all. And I remember coming back home and telling my parents, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to, he gets to sit there and talk about sports every night. That's
Well,
what I want to do.
do you remember The Odd Couple,
Yeah,
Oscar Madison?
sure.
As a kid, I remember after the 1970 thing with the Rams and the Vikings watching The Odd Couple, and hold it, Oscar Madison just gets to go to the games. That's his job.
The best.
Sign me up, right?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
It's the absolute, and I would just devour all of them. And to me, that's who I looked up to. And so, and you guys just had such a great crew there. I can
Oh, we
only
did.
imagine because you went from Portland to Seattle, right?
I did, yes.
So what was that like for you? Because you're watching them, and they're established at this point as kind of the number one crew, right, in Seattle. At least for my money, they were.
I had only visited, even though I was raised in Spokane, back then you didn't come over to Seattle very often. I'd only visited 2 or 3 times, and then in college a few times. So I knew who they were, but I wasn't in awe of them when I first got here because I hadn't seen them that much. I quickly realized when I got here that these are sort of legends at the height of their powers, right? And I'll tell you one little story is like Kathy was the queen, and everyone bowed to the queen. Everyone loved her and adored her, but she ruled this place. Even Dan and Steve, you don't mess with Kathy. And so I took it upon myself. I was going to be the one that was going to give her a bad time, or so I thought. And early on, I was giving her the business. I was teasing her about something, and then I'd do it the next day. And then I thought, oh, that's going to be my thing, is I'm going to be the one who's not afraid to mess with Kathy, right? And then one day we went in a commercial break, and she's like, I was giving her the business or something, and she just turned to me and she goes, you know what? You need to shut the F up. It was just like that. And you know what I did? Puckett, I shut up.
Yeah.
There was, but I love that woman dearly. I loved her. One of the coolest, just flat out coolest ladies, people that I've ever met. She was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What did you take from them in your career that you applied at that moment, but then applied, kind of later on?
You know what? I had my own style. I didn't take a television style from them. But what I took was a sense of professionalism, that this was serious business, that you can have fun on the air, but you took the job seriously. You don't call in sick unless you're really sick. You put in the time, you put in the hours, you take it seriously, you do your research. All of them were like that. Steve loved this business, Dan, the consummate professional. Kathy, just a living legend in her time, because Kathy had the thing, you just loved her. Dan, you respected and liked. Steve, but Kathy, you just everybody just kind of fell in love with her, So I took different things from each of them, but mostly the work ethic, the professionalism, this is a serious thing. We'll take it seriously. We have a job to do here. So I hope I've done them justice, in that way.
You have. Absolutely you have. What I got it. I mean, because I can probably spend about 30 minutes on this one. So when I was watching you, I mean, you started off, because there's probably a lot of people who now view you as just the news anchor.
Yeah.
But for the long, I mean, you did sports. I mean, you were the sports guy forever. And then you made the transition which I remember when you first did, I'm like, well, he's leaving sports. He's going to go do the news now. Well, that's not going to be fun. Why would you do that?
I know.
And but you did it, and I don't know if I've seen anybody else do it before. But you made that switch and you were great at it.
I think of myself, I thought of myself as a communicator more than a sportscaster.
Mm.
I've always thought of that. I want to communicate whatever it is I'm trying to communicate. And to me, it was just a challenge. It was just the next thing. But I will tell you this. We had a general manager that said, "Hey, I want you to switch to news." And I said, "No, not interested. Thanks, but no thanks." "Oh, okay, that's okay." Then the next week he calls me in and he says, "Do me a favor, just read on the set, read some news, just so I know what it looks like." All right, so I read, and then he says, "But you don't have to do." I said, "Well, I'm not interested. For the longest time, I don't want to do that. I'm the candy shop. I'm the dessert at the end of
Yeah,
the
the
meal."
fun.
Yes. And but at some point, I felt like growing up isn't the right term. I just felt like it was okay to change gears,
Yeah.
that I have other speeds. And it was it was a great move, but I'd never stopped my love of sports. And I'll tell you what it did, and I wonder if you feel the same way in your career. It freed me up to fall in love again with the sports that I really care about.
Mm.
And I didn't have to stay on top of the ones that I don't care about.
Yeah,
You know what I
no,
mean?
100%. Right. Because sometimes when you're in, because like sports is fun and we like it, it's like our hobby. But
Yeah.
sometimes when you do it for a job, it becomes a job.
Yes.
It's like I could never be, and you probably would agree, I could never be like a beat reporter or someone who covered the Cougs. There's just no way.
Well,
There's
you've
just no
taken the
way I
thing
could
you love.
sit up there.
No, you've taken the thing you love the most
Yeah.
and turned it into your job, and
Yeah.
that's fun for a while, but then at some point you've destroyed this thing that you
I
love,
mean, I
right?
can't be up in a press box throwing things when we go 3 and out.
Screaming, right?
Screaming. You're trying to
That's
be
right.
professional. If I got Bill Stevens yelling at me.
That's right.
All right. The Eric's Little Heroes. I mean, Eric, still to this day, I think it's one of the greatest things that anyone in this market has ever done. I remember, like, I used to joke. I have Chris Egan on this show all the time, and I love Chris to death. And Chris is just a goofball, and he's and I'm sure he's taken a lot. And he's mentioned this before from all you guys, and
Yeah.
how he's done his sports. And I'm always trying to get him to do something, funny, like a pickleball segment. But when I was
Sure.
growing up, like I remember when Tony Ventrilla used to fake cut
Sure,
hair and
remember
interview
that.
guys.
Yeah.
But then you come along with this Eric's Little Heroes, and it was the best thing in the world because you just took something was so innocent with the kids and home video and parents and little league parents and all that, and then turned it into this where we're not making fun of them. We're just kind of highlighting the kids who are T-ball or running down the third base line and running into each other. It was the best. It was the highlight of my night to kind of watch that stuff.
Man.
What sparked that? How'd you come up with that idea?
It's
What
a great
led to
story. It's a great story. I was working in Portland, actually. It was the last year of my career in Portland, and it was summertime, early summer. There's nothing going on. The Blazers aren't doing anything. There's not a ton of sports down there. And I said to Corey Long, our sports photographer, "I got nothing to put on the air tonight. Do me a favor. Go down to such and such corner. There's a little ball field there. Shoot a T-ball game, and let's see if anything funny happens." And he came back an hour and a half later, and he goes, "I think you're going to like this." And he hands me the tape. And what happened was there's a kid playing shortstop. They hit a ground ball to him, and the coach yells, "Go to second, go to second." So the ball's rolling towards him, but the coach says, "Go to second." So he just takes off and runs to second, right? And I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. The thing that I did, though, that I am so proud of this was not just to say, "Hey, here's this tape. Look at the kid. They're yelling at him, and he goes to second base." I did it as if I was an announcer calling the game and was shocked at what had happened. So it was there's a ground ball. Hold it. The coach, where are you going? What are you doing? That kind of thing, the way you would if you were calling a game. And Jason, it worked immediately.
Yeah.
It was legendary in Portland before I left there. And in fact, after I left Portland, all 3 stations started doing it. with varying degrees of success.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came up here, I was a little nervous because Seattle's the big leagues. I don't know, they might laugh me out of town. But I showed my news director, and he goes, "You really want to put this on the air?" And I said, "Yes." And it made my career. It
Yeah.
made my career. It was originally called the Little League Play of the Week because it was always T-ball. And Williamsport, Pennsylvania, the lawyers called me from Little League and
Oh,
said, "Cease and desist. You're not going to use our name." So my wife and I were at the Uptown Theater on Queen Anne,
sure.
sneak previews before the movie, trying to think up a name. And I just turned to her and I said, "How about Eric's Little Heroes?" And she goes, "That's it." And then the rest is history. I love
God.
doing that, man.
Oh,
I
it's the best.
loved it.
I still it's the best segment, and it's just but Eric, it's just not sports. It's the best segment that Seattle television has ever done, and I bet you there's so. Have you ever had someone who, like a kid that was featured on it,
Oh,
ever come up to you and go, "Hey, I was on your show when I was like 6," and
all
they're
the
like 20 now?
time.
Yeah.
All the time. There's a whole generation of these kids.
Ugh.
They either say, "I was on there. I was a hockey player. Do you remember me?" And
Yeah.
And then the other thing they say is, "When I was little, the thing I wanted most in my life was to be on Eric's Little Heroes."
Of course.
Listen, the way I look at myself as a communicator is, my favorite thing is to bring out the simple joys of life. Just the simple joys of life. I've tried to do that with my Eric's Heroes pieces. I think Eric's Little Heroes did that. Our lives are filled with little snippets of joy that we just take for granted. And at my best, I feel like I shine a light on those little snippets of joy that we all have.
Has it been harder in today's journalism and media to get those stories across, you think?
I'll tell you something. Short answer, yes. But look what KOMO has done for me. They have allowed me to do something that nobody gets to do anymore. My stories are 6-7 minutes long. My Eric's Heroes stories. Nobody gets to do that. And when they do get to do that, if at all, it's usually crime or the struggles of our society. They let me every Wednesday night, and have for 319 episodes, I think, go on there and spend 6 minutes talking about some sweet little beautiful thing that I've come across, some interesting person that has a story to tell. And that just doesn't happen. So I really, I don't want to be a company shill, but this place has allowed me to do that, which is an incredible thing. Incredible.
I would imagine over the years, Eric, you had opportunities to leave and go elsewhere. Why in Seattle? Why'd you stay? Why'd you stay in Seattle? Why'd you stay at KOMO?
Seattle was my dream. It just was. When I was at home listening to Dave Niehaus on the radio, and I had a game called Superstar Baseball. It was a dice game, and all-time great players, and I'm playing that game, announcing it into a tape recorder while I'm listening to Dave Niehaus. My dream was to come to Seattle. It just was. And I had a job opportunity in New York City. And I went there and interviewed, and my wife, Monique, was like, "Let's do it. Let's go. What an adventure." But then I got thinking, I'd be talking about the same things. I'd be covering the same stuff. It just wouldn't be the teams that I care for or care about. It wouldn't be the Cougs. It would be some other school. It wouldn't be the Mariners. It would be the Yankees. It wouldn't, and I thought, and the people I care about are these people here. So I just stayed the course, man. I just stayed the course.
You have a favorite sports story, like the one that you covered?
God.
I mean, there's
so
many of them.
It's killing me.
I know.
I
can ask you the toughest one. Who do you if you could pick one person you don't want to ever interview again, who would it be?
I'm going to answer that question like this. I'm not even going to say who it is because people love this person so much. We just never gelled.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't like being treated like crap. and I take it personally.
Yeah.
And this person, I just, you know,
Yeah.
I'll I'll t-
Like the Mariners run 95, the Seahawks Super
oh
Bowl. I
God,
mean,
yes.
it's
The Mariners run 95. I'm on the field. We dug up the tape the other day, right after the double. The game was on ABC.
Yeah.
I went live with Edgar on the field right
Great.
after that, and
So
he
cool.
called it the highlight of his career. Listen, the Cougs going to the first Rose Bowl in 50 years or whatever
Awesome.
it was. That was amazing. I did a documentary about a young swimmer named Marin Morrison who had brain cancer and lost control of the entire side of her body, so she became a Paralympian. Geez, I mean, I've loved. I will say this: I've cared about each one of them.
Yeah.
I've cared every story I've done. I've actually cared. Sometimes that's not the way to go about it, but they're like my children. You know, these stories that I put my heart and soul into them.
Yeah, but I think there's something honorable in that, though, isn't there?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. I don't. It's been a fantastic run. I've not come to work hating my job ever.
oh, that's great.
But I also want to end it before that happens, right?
Well, you are doing, yeah, because right in this industry, media, you don't get to choose when you get to leave for the most part. I mean, you
No,
know that usually that choice is made for you.
I'd rather leave a little early than a little late. You know.
Okay, you got to be honest with this one, especially this past year. Okay,
you're scaring me.
Yeah. So when you and Mary Nom, people don't know Mary Nom, the other anchor, are sitting up there and having to cover this Husky national championship run. And for people who don't know, Mary's also a Coug, proud graduate of the Edward R. Murrow School of Communication, or college, I think it's now. Was that hard? I mean, was it difficult to sit there? Let's do Wald. Let's go to Nico.
Yeah,
let's go to Nico, who's in, Houston for the, semifinals.
Yeah.
Annoying?
I'll tell you what was hard. What was hard was to bite my lip when I knew how this went down with the Pac-12 demise.
Oh, sure.
And who was responsible and who pounded the final nails in the coffin of that great conference. I found it difficult to bite my lip. In fact, I didn't bite my lip. I wrote this big long thing and posted it. And,
oh yeah, it was great.
It was bitter and angry. So that was difficult for me. The championship, those are young kids out there playing their guts out, and they had an amazing run. And, I don't begrudge anybody their success. Do I wish it was the Cougs? Hell yeah. But, listen, there's professional me and then there's personal me. And professional me has to push personal me aside when I'm on the air.
Yeah, but I love the desk dynamic though, because it was you and Mary the Cougs, and then Steve was a Husky, and it's just great. I mean, that's the way it should be. It's what was it? Would he bring the band in, or would you guys bring the band in?
He would bring the band in, and then Kathy would bring in the Cougar band or Butch, and those two would go back and forth.
That's great.
And it was electric. Although Steve is such a gentleman.
Yeah.
And he's not a poker. He doesn't want to start anything. He wants everybody to get along.
Yeah.
Whereas, I tend to poke a little bit.
Yeah, you do.
And I'll toss out some stuff, and he would say, "Hey, listen, we love the Cougs except when they're playing the Huskies. You know the whole deal."
Oh, I hate that.
And Cougars our mindset is, listen, if you don't hate me, then you don't respect me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You need to hate me, damn it. And it's just such a funny dynamic. I've had a blast with that, and I love writing about it and telling stories about it. And but I will tell you this: I'm good friends, not to be a name dropper, but Jack Thompson is a great friend of mine. And I'll tell you what: if you took some of our phone calls and posted them online, a recording, oh my God, because he and I, each of us are who we vent to about these things, and we have a lot of fun.
What's next for you? More Cougar games? Am I gonna see at the Coug getting a beer and a
You'll
burger?
See me at the Coug.
Yeah?
I'm very frustrated with college athletics right now. just the way it's gone,
Sure.
you know. But I'm gonna be making trips. You will always find me at the Cougs. You
Good.
know that.
Yeah.
I've got a project or two I'm working on.
Good.
I have a thing that I wrote that I hope is a novel, but I don't want to call it that unless somebody wants to publish it. Then it becomes a novel. So I'm looking for a literary agent. I've just got some stuff. One awesome project that I can't really talk about, that if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at the very least, I'm happy to not have that hard 5 o'clock deadline, 6 o'clock deadline hanging over my head every single day of my life. I think that's going to be freeing. And I feel like I still have stuff to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Trips, vacation.
Sure. I'm going on. I take a baseball trip every year with my son. This year we're going to Pittsburgh
Awesome.
because I hear the ballpark is fantastic, and I plan to spend a lot more time watching baseball games. It's my favorite thing to do, and my son and I just bond over that. You know, that's where we're most comfortable. I'll be doing that. I'll be writing, and the other stuff. I still want to work a little bit for a couple years. I want to do something. We'll see what that is. I'm gonna start. I joined a speakers bureau, so I'll be giving some speaking engagements here and there. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens.
You're the best, man. Well, to a great career. I took up so much of your time. You're the best for doing it. You're so kind with your time, and I think I'll speak for everyone who has watched you over the years. Thank you. Thank you for all of it. You were so
man,
great,
you're
Eric.
very sweet.
And it was just awesome to have you in our living rooms for so many years. You inspired a lot of people. I hope you know that.
It has been an honor to be in those living rooms, and people in this region have accepted me in an incredible way. I'll forever be in the debt of the people that live here and tune in and say nice things. And now we'll see what the next thing is. I'm excited.
There he is, Eric Johnson. Again, on YouTube, like and subscribe. You can, of course, if you're watching this, you can also listen to it on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you find your podcast, and also at pucksports.com.